It's coming up to a year since you were appointed as chairperson of the VMC. What have you learnt in that time?
The biggest thing that I've learned is that our communities will always hold the answer. One of the things that we say at the VMC is that the most compelling way to understand someone from another cultural background is to meet them. That's the way we diffuse fear. That's the way we diffuse what we don't know. And that is the most compelling truth.
What do you see as the most pressing issues and challenges facing the multicultural sector at the moment?
I think the most pressing issues would have to be identity politics around our Muslim community, around our African community, around our Pacifica community, and of course the rise of the far right movement. I think they're very, very challenging aspects of what's occurring in our sector. There's obviously a lot of work being done around radicalisation as well.
As a former journalist, presenter and now filmmaker, what do you think of the Australian media's portrayal of the multicultural sector and also issues like refugees and migration? One
thing I have seen over time in the media is that it's an incremental shift that needs to occur, that slowly we can diffuse some of the stereotypical depictions and images and narratives around communities by beginning to paint them in the right light. And often that's done through, for example, aspirational sports stars or actors or key people within that community that help break through those stereotypes, but it takes time.
We're currently seeing the fallout and the chaos from the federal election. We've seen Pauline Hanson return to politics. What's your take on where all this is heading?
I think we're in for a challenging time. I think the discourse is about to take a turn for the worse. And I think it's really important that we use productive counter-narratives to what we might be hearing, what we're already hearing within days of some of those results occurring. Often politicians think that they're purporting the truths of a small part of the public and that they translate into the wider views of the community, and that's simply not the case. This is a responsibility for social cohesion throughout our entire community, and politicians have to be mindful of that. They have to be really responsible around that, and it's more important than ever that we get this right.
Do you think that new and emerging communities have enough of a voice in the public domain? Are they represented adequately through forums and through government consultation?
I do think they're adequately represented, but I think there's always more work to be done in that area. What we try and do is get a really good cross-representation of our community, whether it's youth, African youth or Pacifica youth, but from every part of Melbourne. And we like to I guess, put them in more informal settings where we let them tell us the solutions. We certainly don't go in with any preconceived ideas. That's been really, really important for issues like the Apex gang and addressing some of the current issues and that they feel have been contributing factors to some of the problems that have occurred, because it's really important when we listen to communities that we go to the community.
Currently, more than 65 million people across the globe have been displaced from their homes because of war and conflict. That's unprecedented in history. In Australia, we're starting to see groups of Syrian refugees arrive as a result of that conflict. Do you think that we're doing enough in Australia?
I'd be worried if I answered an emphatic yes to this, to say that we're doing enough, because I think we can always do more as a sector, as a community, as a government. I think the corporate responsibility around having a more diverse workforce is a really important one, because our workforces in general should reflect the diversity of the community. I think our multicultural sector can look at more innovative pathways, more holistic measures like sports or like arts or like culture, and just making sure that we really make contact and start to foster that social cohesion from the minute those communities arrive here.
Finally, do you have a story or personal anecdote that you could share with us that maybe conveys the importance and the value of things like, migration and multiculturalism to Australia?
For me, I look back and I think I'm so lucky to have had parents that taught me the value of my ancestral background, if you like, what my Greek heritage has given to me, but also the richness and their willingness to embrace the Australian culture and the Australian ethos of life. My dad used to call us Greek kangaroos, so I think that to me typified that, how happy and embracing he was to be in this new culture. So yeah, my personal anecdote really is one that so many people share, and that's that we came from nothing and everything was available to us.
Helen Kapalos, thanks so much for talking to us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.